Hey, how you doing? Live from the streets of Kansas. There's that pickup truck again. I'm just going to drive this morning. Running a little late, as per usual. It's a frosty morning. It's 29 degrees. Yes, I did scrape my windshield. It's a very thin layer of frost, but not much good it did me. I've got to let the defroster do its thing. The windshield is, well, it did a little bit of good, but the windshield is just going to stay frozen until the heater catches up to it. Later on today, I have to make an errand to Lee Summit, which is a nice long drive. I was thinking of doing my my Civil War rant then. People might be more apt to watch. I've been getting some comments, mostly on the negative side, which is fine. People want to cling to their beliefs and their ideas, and it's amazing to me how people are so much more eager and willing to hate on their neighbors and friends than they are to really respond to a real threat to their existence and the existence of their family members in this world. No desire to read or understand history or to care about any of that. Just, I don't know. Just name calling is all they've got, which is in itself when you resort to name calling. It's an admission that you've been defeated. You have nothing better, no better arguments. And I've been in these situations before. You get in arguments, and I don't expect to people who have their minds set and made up, but there are people teetering in the middle. A lot of people who, at least if they don't agree with me, it might make them curious enough to do their own thinking and research. And not long after I pulled out of the neighborhood, that the defroster is caught up. It's a very light layer of frost on the windshield. Excuse me. I've been so busy lately keeping my head down, editing and working on my stuff at home, that these days I'm not even keeping track of what the weather is doing, so I don't know what the weather will be. We've had a week of snow and ice. Thankfully not much ice, just mostly snow, and it wasn't that thick or heavy. Nothing that couldn't be handled if people just take it sleazy. But it's kind of like the pandemic. People pretty much know what they have to do, but they allow themselves to get carried away into their own selfishness You know, it's the same thing when somebody is racing past you on the road, going as fast as they can in snow and ice conditions. They're apt to not only take themselves out, but take other people with them as well. And it's the same mentality going into like the beer flu. It's something that we all have to deal with, we all have to cope with. And some people are just not coping very well. They're allowing, and not just in America, it's not an American thing, it's not signs of how bad Americans are. I hear that in the Netherlands they're having problems too. That people are so fed up with the restrictions and wearing masks that they went and turning cars over and burning buildings and rioting when the government said we got to put more restrictions in place. You know, it's not a vast right-wing or left-wing conspiracy that we're doing this. It's just simply what we need to do to protect. And really, I feel for a lot of people who have been put out of work. And matter of fact, on that front, speaking of which, I've observed places like the Philippines have been actually doing pretty well with their coping with the pandemic, and a lot of Asian countries have been doing much better than their Western counterparts. And I'm wondering why, what? And then I've realized, because I've been watching a lot of live streams, and well, not live streams from Cebu, mostly from Japan, but I've been watching a lot of videos from Cebu. I've been kind of getting to know the city by watching other people walk and drive around it. It's pretty cool. It's kind of what I do here. You share your city with the world, and anybody that's curious can watch it and go, huh, yeah. But this one woman, she goes by Village People, Philippines, was walking around area called Mango Street in Cebu. Mango Street is kind of a notorious bar district / red light / entertainment district. It's where, easy women basically. And Mango Street is quite literally shut down. As a matter of fact, the bars there are all boarded up. And I'm like, that's maybe the secret to their success. The government said these types of establishments will not be open at all, and they stuck to it. Now, that's a hard way to go. It's because, there's a lot of tourism there. A lot of money comes in. A lot of poor people really make their living supporting their families from the tourist industry. And I don't mean the ladies of the evening. I mean the taxi drivers, the tour guides, and all of that stuff is shut down. Restaurant workers, bar workers. And that's really tough medicine to take, but it's very effective. And here in America, the thing is, it's about discipline, really. I believe, and it maybe, we'll see if the truth bears me out, but I believe that the places that do this kind of thing, that place these hard limitations on themselves and show strong discipline, will be the first places to open back up. And when they do, they won't have as many deaths to deal with. After all, that's the end goal, isn't it? So I think that these countries that are showing strong discipline and saying, well, we really have to suffer now. I have to qualify that because the Philippines, unfortunately, are not very well known for their strong welfare services. As a matter of fact, there really are none. In the Philippines, you can see kids begging on the streets. You can see whole families laying in the streets homeless. Not a very strong government infrastructure to try and take care of people. But there is. I mean, the same lady that I was watching was talking about how there are programs for homeless people and stuff hanging out on the streets begging for money, and they don't want to give that up, and so they unfortunately, the government, the local authorities will come round homeless people up under the bridges and the walkways and stuff and take them to these programs, and then as soon as they turn their backs, they're out, they're gone. At least that's what the lady that I've been watching is saying. Yep, that is true. And in 1938, the Nazis passed a gun law. And then in 1968, we did the same thing. We passed a gun law. And as a matter of fact, the gun laws are very similar to each other. But the difference between 1968 and now is that in 1968, our gun law was designed to combat people like the Black Panther movement, and it had the backing of the NRA. It's pretty strange to think about that, how we change our minds over time, and we forget to look back on history. And speaking of the Nazis and their welfare state, unfortunately, another part of their welfare program was that they believe very strongly in eugenics. Eugenics is a pseudoscience that basically talks about superior versus inferior gene pools, and if you were born with a birth defect or had to be taken care of in the rest of your life, they would round you up. As a matter of fact, that was their first victims in their concentration camps, were people that were born either mentally retarded or birth defects or whatever, and they would round them up and, you guessed it, murder them. They were the first victims of the Holocaust, and they were the ones that were experimented on. Very inhuman. Which, it kind of gets me because Central Europe, Germany, was a very... And before World War I, they really did take care of people, their citizens in their own country. They had all sorts of programs. They were more advanced, further along than Great Britain, United States, a lot of countries. They were very highly educated. Then World War I happened. They were on the losing side, and the terms of the peace agreement were of the armistice were pretty harsh. And there were a lot of people living in Germany that could not meet their potential because they were limited by the circumstances of the world around them, and looking for people to blame for that. And that's what happens over and over and over again in human history, and that's sort of what I think is happening here in the United States. If you look at it, if you look at a lot of people who are joining up with right-wing militia movements, yeah, well, we have to understand history a little bit and human psychology. I mean, I'm an expert in that. I'm just saying that we can kind of, even as lay people, understand at least a little bit and go, okay, this is a path we've been on. This is a path in human history where we're going. So yeah, a very industrially advanced Western European power, very well educated people can fall down that rabbit hole, then we have to be very wary ourselves and sensitive. And to those ends, there's some blinky lights. It looks like an accident over there. To those ends, oops, I gotta reset my thing. Being sensitive means that we have to do a little bit more than just be somewhat educated. We have to try to make an effort. Like the Black Lives Matter movement is very good for that. Oh, I'm headed to work. This is my midnight drive. I'm driving down US 71 highway, about ready to get onto Emmanuel Cleaver 2 Boulevard. Which used to be Swope Parkway, and what was the other one? There was forever it was 47th Street, Swope Parkway. It had 7 different names, and then they renamed it Emmanuel Cleaver 2, who I've met several times, and just, I don't know, it's confusing to me. Yeah, that is true. I would agree. I continually say in all my rants that if you take the hardcore leftist and you take the hardcore right-wing person, basically ideologues, an ideologue is an ideologue. Doesn't matter what their alignment is. And I have met many people. As a matter of fact, I've met more people on the left who are much harder to deal with and much harder to reason with than people on the right. I've met a lot of people on the right who've worked hard their whole lives, and it just isn't panning out. And something happened yesterday and the day before that's kind of interesting, in that maybe indicative of a problem in our country. And that is, we have people who have gamed the system. And what I'm talking about, speaking of gaming the system, is this whole situation with GameStop, where people the hedge fund managers, making air quotes here, are trying to control the market, and a bunch of average Joes somehow got into it and said, no, we want to protect our little store that we like, and we're going to keep you from controlling the fate of this little business. I've got a very cynical friend who's always saying that that you can't win against the system. Why do we even try? He won't go and vote. He won't do anything. He completely is disenfranchised. Says that all money goes into the military war industrial complex. And I'm like, well, yeah, in history that's been the way of things, but there's always people. The world is made up of many people, and not all of them are assholes. Well, anyway, thanks for the comments. I'm almost here. I got to end this. So if you like all this, please like and subscribe and ring that bell so that whenever I'm on, you know about it. Well, anyway, thank you. Talk to you later.